Good afternoon and welcome to Senior Services of Southeastern Virginia 2024 Area Plan for Aging Services Public Hearing. You are going to be an active part of what takes place during this, so please give your suggestions, recommendations, and all that so we here can do a better job of taking care of you. My name is Gary Zalis, and I have the pleasure and honor of serving on not only the board of directors, but I am the chair of the Service Advisory Council here at Senior Services of Southeast Virginia. I'm here today with the other presenters, Steve Zoris, the Chief Executive Officer, and Sharnita Waters, the Senior Director of Operations. Well, I want to thank you for joining us today for this important hearing. Our goal today is to gain suggestions and insights for the community for our strategic plan. That is from all of you, whether you're here in the room or you're joining us by Zoom or you're calling in by phone. We'll be more than happy to answer the questions or take your recommendations as well. I hope you will participate in the questions and comments and answer session following the presentation. As I mentioned, if you're here with us, please take part in this discussion so we can do a better job. Now it's my distinct pleasure to introduce our CEO, Mr. Steve Zolis.
Thank you, Gary. And Gary is the chairperson for our Service Advisory Council, as well as sitting on our board of directors. So Gary, thank you for being here today. And as Gary mentioned, our goal today is to gain insights and input from the community, whether you're here in the room or you're here virtually with us. So please take notes, write down if you have questions, if you have comments, as you see what our direction is, and you have ideas, maybe we missed something, write it down. We do take, we're in the process now of developing our strategic plan and our area plan for this coming year, fiscal year 2024, which starts October 1st for us. And those ideas and comments will be incorporated into our strategic thinking as we develop that plan. So let's go forward with the slides. Just to give you a background on who we are before we get into our goals and objectives for the year that we're looking at currently. Part of the National Aging Network. That means the Administration for Community Living at the federal level. The agencies throughout the United States. So there's 50 state units on aging in each state. And then there's 622 area agencies on aging. We're one of those agencies. In fact, we were one of the first four that were ever created in the United States. And we're the largest area agency on aging in the state of Virginia. Okay, so just a quick snapshot of what we look like now. We have 64 full-time individuals, 26 part-time, 74% are female, 64% are minority, and 50% are over the age of 55. So we walk the talk here at Senior Services. Our jurisdictions, we have 8 jurisdictions. You can see the cities of Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Portsmouth, Chesapeake, and Suffolk, along with the city of Franklin and the counties of Southampton and Isle of Wight. That's 2,000 square miles of coverage where we provide all of our services, transportation, in-home services, benefits counseling. You'll hear more about the variety of services that we provide as we go. Our mission, to provide older adults and their caregivers with access to the programs and services so that they may live with choice and dignity in the communities of their choosing. So I want to give you a chance just to hear a little snippet. This is a 4-minute video about from a few of the people that we serve. So enjoy.
Hi, my name is Guy St. John. I live in Chesapeake, Virginia.
Hello, my name is Arthur Hall, and I live in Suffolk, Virginia.
Hi, my name's Pat Spratt. I've lived here in Norfolk my whole life.
Our family is fortunate to participate in the Senior Services Senior Companion Program.
I love being a part of the Veteran Seniors Citizen Care Program, and it's very nice for veterans to get this program.
Well, Meals on Wheels, this has been a godsend for me. it keeps me to where I eat proper, proper meat, vegetables and stuff like that. The food is delicious.
Well, we've been involved with senior services and the companion program for almost 4 years now. And it was a result of a diagnosis for my wife with Alzheimer's, and the realization that I could not do it all. Care for her, work, expect her to be okay during the day. And so senior services has stepped in with a variety of things that have been hugely beneficial to me and to my wife, such as respite care, which allows me to go to work during the day and realize that she is in competent, loving, caring hands at home. We haven't used the services of transportation or meals yet, but I know that those are still out there and a resource that would be available possibly if I needed to reach out and take advantage of those.
Well, the senior citizen care program has really made me more efficient in my home. And having Ms. Carol as my caseworker, she really did a lot for me, and I can make my own decisions as far as my health care.
My Meals on Wheels, they get delivered to me twice a week. They get, the entrees and all this, and it's very nutritious food. It's very good. And the people that deliver, they're so nice. It's a lot of times that's the only contact with people that I have. The people they call, we chit chat for a minute, and then they knock on my door and we chit chat again. And they've been so helpful.
I'm very thankful to Senior Services of Southeast Virginia and the Senior Companion Program for the care and the assistance and the dedication that they have brought for the care of my wife and our home.
Thank you, senior services, for having me stay in my home. I just love the program.
Thank you, Senior Services, for the Meals on Wheels. You've been a blessing. Everybody there, the drivers, deliverers, and all that. Oh, y'all are so wonderful.
So I wanted to show that particular video to kind of show you the heart behind, not just the numbers, here's senior services, but how we're truly affecting people, the heart behind the services. You hear just about the drivers. You think, well, drivers just drive. Well, drivers don't just drive. They build relationship. They become critical contacts for people in the community. And that goes for everyone in the senior services staff. Just phenomenal folks who care and love for the older adults in our community. So I want to show you just a little snapshot of our revenues and our expenses. You can see the majority of our funds come from federal funds through the Administration of Community Living, down through the Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services, and then state funding as well. We also get funding from United Way and contributions, program revenues, grants and contracts, and donated goods and services. So where do those resources go? You can see they're fully allocated through our wellness and lifestyle programming that includes Congregate Hayden Senior Center, that's Congregate Meals, nutrition services, chronic disease self-management programs, and others. Transportation, which is a large part of our budget, management and fundraising, donated goods and services. You saw that on the last slide. And what happens is organizations provide donations and services to us in kind, and those go right back out to the community. So that same number was on the previous slide as a revenue, and you can see it just slides right through to help the community. Community-based services, which includes our home delivered meals program and others, benefits counseling, And then aging and disability services, that includes our information and referral services, our public information care coordination, our ombudsman program, and others. So here's where we get into a little bit of the meat of where we're going and why it's important that we start to pay attention to where we're at and what we're looking to for the next 10 years, really, and more. I have a slide here that just shows, this is from the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission, these numbers, and this shows the total population growth in blue and the growth of the 60+ population over the next 7 years, really. And keeping in mind that these blue percentages include the older adult population, okay? So we see, for example, in Chesapeake, 9% overall growth, 25% in the 60+ population. Franklin staying about even, a little bit of loss on both. Isle of Wight, 10% increase overall population. Again, 25% growth in the older adult population. So we've heard about the silver tsunami, the graying of America, the graying of the world. Well, we need to stop thinking about it like, oh, it's coming one day, right? We're in the middle of it. And for the next 10 and 15 years, we're going to see these growth rates continue. And as our community continues to gray, you need to realize for an organization like ours, who's already looking at 30% increase in demand, as this graying community continues to age, a 60-year-old needs this many services, a 70-year-old needs this many services, an 80-year-old needs this many services, right? So as Senior Services of Southeastern Virginia, looking to keep our older adults healthy and active so that they can live with dignity in their communities, the chore is getting increasingly more demanding. Just again, before we get into some of the details, just a restating of our mission. This is where everything wraps around, right? So we want to be able to empower our older adults and their caregivers to live with choice and dignity in their communities. I want to introduce Charnita Waters to come up, our Senior Director of Operations. She's going to share the stage with me for the remainder of the program before the questions and answers and comments in order to tie what we're doing to our operations. How do we accomplish these things that you're going to be seeing at this time? With our mission, everything else that you see is going to wrap around that.
All right, so I guess I'll jump in, Steve, in reference to our mission and what we do as an organization to help accomplish our mission. We provide a plethora of services, as Steve has already mentioned. They include our senior advocate ombudsman, our options counseling, personal care, respite care, care for the caregiver, support for the caregiver of the older adult, and transportation are just some of the few services in which we provide. We definitely encompass the notion that with our mission, it's our core, it's our foundation. And so our services and our support are the way in which we activate that mission, in which we carry out that mission to ensure that our older adults are healthy, active, and engaged, and could live with dignity and choice in their communities.
Value is our efforts, if I put it into just a 2-word phrase, our efforts to elevate aging. And in particular, it's trumpeting the significant contribution older adults bring to our communities, our economy, our workforce, and our families. So what we haven't done well, as I mentioned, we've seen the silver tsunami coming, right? But we haven't really made that transition of thinking. So with our value, we're looking at, we brought on an advocacy manager to make sure that the value and importance of our older adult community is recognized not only by our own organization, but by the community at large, by our local leaders, and by our state and federal leaders as well. So we've taken the initiative, especially this year, to really start to make sure our representatives and our legislators know who we are, they know what we do, and they understand that that we are here for them when they want to know what's going on in the older adult community. You may have noticed in the last number of months, just a week or so ago, we had an op-ed in the Virginian Pilot. And then about 3 months earlier, we had another op-ed in the Virginian Pilot in order to start to raise that awareness that older adults are important. Older adults are of equal value to every other age group in our community. We've built a legislative agenda. We're in the process of doing that for 2024 as the redistricting happens and everybody gets reelected and who's who and where are they at, so that we can have that appropriate influence and that appropriate voice on behalf of older adults. Next, we talk about ageism. And the one word that I put up for ageism is inclusion. Fostering age-inclusive practices, equal opportunities, and an appreciation for older adults. Goes hand in glove with value, but there's a distinct difference when it comes to ageism, when we sometimes don't even realize that we put older adults in a box, separated from everybody else, because we don't think they have the value, the capabilities, the skills, or the importance, right? That's ageism. And certainly one of our trumpeting calls is we want to provide an inclusive atmosphere for our older adults in our community. Charnita?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so in reference to the ageism that we spoke to, organizationally, we have our pillar of volunteerism and coordination, in which we have a volunteer coordinator that really helps to bring us and support us with other persons to help really execute our service provisions. Our volunteers come on board from young to older adult to really create that intergenerational approach. And to Steve's point, really help to create an inclusive environment so that we're all sharing and exchanging knowledge, providing supports, all intention to help the older adult age well.
Food insecurity. Sounds really kind of nice. Food insecurity. Someone might not have lunch today. Well, I'm ringing the bell. Food insecurity is food scarcity. Food scarcity means older adults are going hungry. They are not getting the food that they need in order to live a healthy life. The implications are very significant. If you remember Maslow's theory, right? Food is on the very base, the basic need that you have to have. If you want health, if you want well-being, if you want wealth, if you want, if you don't have food, you're done. Okay? And I'm going to tell you, we don't like to hear it, we're missing a hitch here in our community. Last year, we provided over 600,000 prepared meals for older adults in our community, most of whom are homebound, meaning they don't have someone in their home to prepare meals. They have limitations, so they can't get out and get food. And they even if we gave them food, many of them don't have the ability to prepare the meals. So we're providing nutritious prepared meals. You heard from the young lady on the video, right? Sometimes it's the only person I get to talk to. But how many times did she say, oh, the food's good? It's nutritious. They give me my vegetables. They give me my meat. It's a big deal. We have a waiting list of people who have already qualified, meaning they're homebound. They can't get food. And we're trying to find the resources in order just to feed people. That shouldn't be the case, right? So this is the food insecurity. And what are we doing in order to help with the food insecurity situation?
Absolutely. So Steve, as you know, and as I'll share with you all, we are doing the best that we can, but I think it's an important point that Steve shared is that we are hitting a point where we are above and beyond what our capacity can support. The demand is continuing to grow. We know that America overall, the age over 60 and above is going to continue to climb. But most importantly, here in the Hampton Roads area, it is drastically significant as we see the changes with older adult population. And so in relationship to food insecurity, What we are doing here currently internally and providing this service is, as Steve shared, the home delivered meals, which are the meals that we provide to those older adults who are homebound. Most of the time, it is the only contact in which they have with our drivers, providing the meals. We have volunteers through our vendors, but also our options counselors who help to create and do eligibility for these older adults to connect them to the service. We also have what we call our congregate sites. What I would like to consider is our hub model for Friendly Cafe is senior sites in which we provide meals weekly to older adults who come to our sites to actually partake in the meals, but also create that social relationship. So there's a social cohesion aspect there where they can make friends, play games, do different kind of learning activities while also partaking in a healthy meal. We also have our neighborhood harvest program, in which is farm to table. We work with the neighborhood harvest to help provide those healthy meals, that fresh food to our older adults. We have older adults who are attending our senior sites that receive those meals, but also some of our homebound adults in which neighborhood harvest will deliver the meals to them. And then recently, we actually completed our disbursement of vouchers for our senior farmers market program. It is a statewide initiative where older adults can get access to locally grown produce through voucher booklets. Voucher booklets are about $50 in total, but they have local farmers who actually bring that produce to our older adults, and they could actually turn in their vouchers for that food. So yes, food insecurity is definitely a gateway to what we know for exacerbation of chronic disease and various medical conditions. And so without the proper food, without healthy, nutritious, safe, and affordable food, this is the risk that we look at in relationship to our older adults and food insecurity.
I want to take a minute and just remind us of the population, but I also want to remind us of the community, right? Inflation. Inflation hits us, we make adjustments. Inflation hits a person on a fixed income. Guess what? Their adjustments are a lot different than our adjustments, right? Now they're going, do I take my medication or do I pay my rent? Right? My rent doubled. What am I going to do now? Right? They had a plan. They figured it out. They were going to be able to live their life. And now all of a sudden, wow, I'm in deep water. What am I going to do? This is one of the results, affordable housing. I put under there homelessness. Affordable senior housing is a big issue. But what you need to understand along with that is the 60+ population is the fastest growing segment of the homeless population. We have 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds, and older being pushed out onto the streets, hopefully into shelters, but not always. And if you don't find them at the shelter, guess what? Look under the bridge.
That's right.
Look under the shrubs. Look in the doorway. And I'm going to tell you, because I have a lot of experience working with the homeless, older adults cannot survive on the streets. It's dangerous. It drains your mental health facilities. It drains you physically, and it puts you in harm's way in a way that an older adult can't manage. It's hard enough for a young person, but for an older adult, forget it. You got a limited time to help these folks. So we're working to eliminate homelessness among the elderly through education, connection to resources, and affordable housing. Fill us in, Shanita.
Absolutely. One of the topics that is very near and dear to my heart, because as Steve, I have had a plethora of years of working experience with the housing and homeless sector. And Steve said it so importantly and critical to this area is older adults cannot survive on the streets. The shelters are not conducive for older adults and their individualized needs. So I think it's important that we speak to that. What are we doing here at Senior Services to help push the mission forward in relationship to housing? I will say here, as a part of our mission, it's about aging in place. Well, when we talk about aging in place, at the epicenter of that is the house, it's the home, it's the community. And so without it, it really helps create a challenge to how we help keep older adults healthy, active, and engaged. So one of our initiatives, our homeless initiative, we have a homeless older adults program manager. Previously, we had some support from Centera and other organizations and providers to really create this infrastructure of a coalition building, helping to break down silos and do multi-sector partnership work across various industries and perspectives to really help address the issue of older adult homelessness. We work in coordination with our local continuum of cares who cover the Norfolk, Chesapeake, Western Tidewater area, as well as some of our other localities. So our homeless older adults program manager has really helped to build with our partners, the integrated network of the coalition, to really talk about how do we help address this problem. We recognize that housing and homelessness at the Spear, it comes from a plethora of situations that span across health, that span across food insecurity, that spans across lack of access. And so through the coalition work, we are continuing to help build that lens to create resolutions. Recently, we were awarded the grant from State of Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development. This particular funding opportunity will help us expand our homeless older adults program to really help further our connection and our resources with connecting older adults to social integration, social reintegration through some of our partners and activities. It also helps to do transportation for our homeless older adults. We'll be working with some of our local permanent supportive housing resident older adults who were formerly homeless, but actually can kind of speak to the lens of how do we really create a sustainable solution to older adult homelessness. Additionally, we have our Hayden Village Center, which is award winning. Out in the Franklin area of Virginia, it's a 28 senior housing complex where it's our hub for not only community services, but also a safe place for older adults to live. It is affordable. And so where we see a lot of demand for housing, folks in that area and sometimes beyond actually call to apply for those housing units.
So the Hayden Center was a historic renovation of a high school, a unique opportunity here in Hampton Roads. And one that I think there's conversation. I know Herb brought some things up about Maui, right?
Oh, yep.
And looking at, maybe making that a similar project as the Hayden Village Center. We've actually had folks come from out of state to look at what we've been able to accomplish there in the realm of affordable senior housing, a community center, a medical clinic, et cetera, all on site to serve both the residents at the apartments and the community at large. So really important. And I will say, during the process of working with the homeless, we developed a process where first we provided meals, got them off the streets, working with the city of Norfolk into the, what was it called?
Healthy hotels.
Healthy hotels. And then started to work with the Gosnold House and others to take people over to Prime Plus with Bob Batcher, if you know Bob, to get people first off the streets, but then back integrated into society. So we were able to provide that help, work with the partners. You can see we've worked with Prime Plus, we've worked with the city of Norfolk, we've worked with a wide variety of organizations in order to start addressing this critical issue. And I'll go back one before we go on to the next slide. Again, if we look at Maslow, we're back at the base, right? We've got to get this right. We don't have a choice. We have to get this right, along with food insecurity. We have to get it right. Okay. Mental health. Here we put up social isolation. Really super interesting. As an organization, we've been fighting social isolation for older adults for years. We've recognized how impactful, what a negative impact it has on a person's health, on their mental health, on their physical health, on how they think. And through the last couple of years with COVID, it's been brought to the surface that, hey, this really is an issue. We've kind of known it all along, but when it hit the other whole families and it hit the kids and it hit the young families, it kind of rose to the surface. And now mental health is a primary objective for our political leaders. If you look at the different people's legislative agendas, you see mental health and how we're helping people with that and how we're getting them to be built into society again. Well, this is critical for us, and we're looking at reconnecting isolated older adults to family, healthcare, and society through transportation, programs, and technology. A lot has changed with COVID. A lot of opportunities have come up. So Sharnita, what are we doing for social isolation here at Senior Services?
Absolutely. So we have a plethora of programs, supports, and initiatives that speak to the concept of social isolation and how to shift the trajectory of the implications of what social isolation can do. And so, as I mentioned early on about our congregate sites, our senior sites, in which we help older adults to really reconnect with friends, create new friendships, create new relationships at our senior sites, to really be able to engage and really combat the problem of social isolation. In addition to that, as Steve shared in reference to technology, we have a HealthWise program where we actually teach older adults the basic concepts and framework of how to utilize technology, how to function the internet, the tablets, the cell phones. We have core topics in which we have coaches, HealthWise coaches, technology coaches, go to our older adults either virtually or they conduct it on site to really be able to teach them these basic topics. And then the older adult can tailor the rest of their sessions about what would they like to do. Would they like to recreate and connect more with social media? You know, a lot of older adults, believe it or not, like Facebook. They call it the Facebook. And so we work with them to really help create this unique sense of how to recreate and how to reconnect socially. Social isolation, as we know, can be very grave to someone's older adults' overall health and well-being. And so this is why we put a lot of emphasis into really combating that problem. I'll tell you something hot off the press that we recently did in January. We submitted an application to National Institutes of Health for the COMPASS program, which typically is surrounding communities working together with partnerships to really advance society. And so with that, we focus in on HealthWise. How will we expand technology coaching for older adults? And then we sort of propose that we will work with permanent supportive housing units to really expand what we call the interconnectivity, the wireless infrastructure, broadband infrastructure in these units for our older adults to really help them connect more. And so we're still awaiting our what the verdict will be for this NIH opportunity, but we really thought it important to really, again, push forward to really combat this problem.
And I'll just add on this front, we say social isolation, that's the buzzword, right? I'm going to tell you it's really societal isolation. Because when you don't know technology today, the things we take for granted, ordering food, shopping, connecting with family, connecting with your doctor, all the things that we kind of do second nature, right? When you take that away in today's society, just think someone just took your computer and your cell phone away. You don't get it back. Are you going to get home? Right?
Probably not.
It's going to be tough. But you get disconnected from society, not just socially. Hey, I don't see my friends now. You know. Finally, we have equity in aging, ensuring older adults receive an equitable share of respect, assistance, consideration, and financial support. I go every budget hearing locally. I go and tell folks what we're doing, how we're doing it, that we need assistance. I know everybody's got tight budgets, but we're still largely receiving the same amount of dollars we received 5 and 10 years ago. And you know, that's why we're trying to get people to understand where we're at when we talk about hunger. You know, we're not just going, oh, we serve meals, isn't that great? No, we're keeping people from literally starving, from declining in health from day to day, and helping to keep them active participants in our community because they're important and they just need a little bit of assistance. So we're ringing the bell, asking everybody, whether it's individually, corporately, etc., Are you being equitable to our aging society? Evaluate. If you're running an organization, you saw our statistics, how many older adults we have working here. Do you have older adults working in your facility, right? And it goes on to giving, it goes on to all aspects. Are we really looking at and valuing our older adults, or are we not? And I think, this is another area that I think we're behind the curve in. And I wish this was a super happy presentation, but we got a lot of work to do, as you can see, right? And so you can tell we're all about partnering. We're all about working for the benefit of older adults here. And did you have anything to add to this slide? I don't remember.
Absolutely, I do.
Okay.
Absolutely. And so recently this fiscal year, we made the strategic decision to hire an advocacy manager, someone that will take on the charge of pushing the envelope, forging forward with carrying the message of how do we create a senior infrastructure, a friendly senior environment for our older adults, from legislative all the way down to community and everything in between, even with partners and with potential funders. How do we really help to put older adults at the top of the list, knowing that they are the most vulnerable, knowing that their needs will only continue to exacerbate if we choose to not respond effectively? And so in addition to our advocacy manager, Steve recently published 2 op-eds through our local media outlets. Virginia Pilot was one of them. And then we also are working on op-eds that we will carry out in the Western Tidewater community. These op-eds are another effort of ours to really push the message, increase awareness, and again, draw light to what we see is going on in reference to equitable aging. Partnerships, we partner with a host of people across the platform here, perspectives, industries, fields, and organizations. Partners like Alzheimer's Association, partners like our local community services board, funders, state and local affiliates. We have representation from all jurisdictional areas, and those are just very few to name. I mean, we have a list of partners in which we work with to really, again, increase the voice and help create an equitable aging lens. And then, as Steve shared early on through our data, we see the increase in older adults. And so we're really trying to figure out, how do we do more with less? How do we really create efficiencies to really position ourselves and ensure that we are helping to push equitable aging, but also really help keep our older adults in their communities, which is a return on investment cost when you start thinking about the burdening costs for medical care and healthcare and the systems that are already constrained with resources. And so as we stand here today, again, we just want to continue to hone in on this equity and aging and continuing to work with our funders and potential funders to push older adults at the top. All of us will age one day. All of us have an older adult in our family, in our friend, in our community circle. And so we have to draw light and put a scope of spotlight on their needs to, again, really address their needs.
Okay, now the most important part of the meeting. You kind of heard in a short story, here's where we're at, here's where we think we're looking for the future of aging in Southampton Roads and Western Tidewater. You kind of heard, here's our directions, here's the things we're trying to wrestle with. What are we missing? What's good about what we're doing? What do we need to add? What are comments, thoughts, ideas, or questions that you might have for us? Herb?
Yeah, I want to commend you all on the presentation and the emphasis on the focus areas. Having been a school board member for 13 of 19 years, from 95 to 2013, the equity thing really jumps out at you when you consider that across the state of Virginia, somewhere between about nowadays $10,000 to $15,000 per student is spent in every one of the 130 plus school divisions in the state. What is provided in the way of equity towards seniors programs is literally a drop in the bucket. That's where it's really incumbent upon everybody in this room, everybody watching and listening, as well as board members, strategic planning committee members, advisory council members, interact at the local and state level, and yes, even federal level. If you haven't talked to your local supervisor at the county level, or council member at the city or town level, or your state delegate or senator, or your senator and representative in Washington, you need to get their numbers and talk to them periodically about this. Send them emails, whatever, because the decision makers that decide on how much funds is going where, if they don't hear from you, they do their own thing. And the people that get the money, it's like the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I'm a real news nut, and I think it really blew my mind when in the last census, in fact, in the last 3 years now, the population growth was infinitesimal last year, mostly due to legal immigration, forget the illegal. But over the previous 10 years of the 2020 census, we need to have 2.1% birth rate in order to sustain the workforce in this country. It came in at like 1 point something. I go back to then the thing about the increase in the number of seniors. We have 5,600 plus students in Alawite County schools. We have approaching 9,000 seniors, and by 2030, we'll be close to 11,000. And they'll be lucky if they get to 6,500 in the schools. So please, folks, get that phone number. If you get the chance, sit down and talk to them. Take them to lunch in your local area, whether they're the council members or soups. And yeah, even your state delegate and senator. It's really important that we communicate that message. Look out for seniors, because you're going to get older too, Representative.
Yeah, and I'll mention, Sharnita mentioned that we have an advocacy manager, and one of the things that Rebecca is doing is she's starting what we're calling a Capitol Hill Club, where we can start to train up people who've never contacted anybody, their city council or their representatives, et cetera, where they can come together, learn how to do it effectively, so that whatever message they have, they can feel comfortable that I can do an email, I can make a phone call, however they're comfortable, but they've learned how to do it in a way that will be received well at whatever level that they're giving it. So look for the Capitol Hill Club. You'll start to see news about it in the next couple months. And we're going to try and gather as many older adults and whoever else wants to participate to learn how to advocate on behalf of older adults.
Steve, along that line, you said you go to the budget hearings, meetings, et cetera. It's important that board members, council members, committee members show up with him, so he's not standing up there like a lone ranger. It's really important to present a united front.
And it's really good, as her was saying, if throughout the year they're getting that message, they're seeing the op-eds, they're getting a phone call, they're recognizing that there's issues going on, so that when we do stand in front of them, it's not news to them, like, oh, what do they know, right? So, other questions, thoughts? Oh, yes.
I probably have a few, I'm sorry.
Please.
I didn't mention transportation.
Oh,
So is that, well, I think that's a real, I think it's the first thing you think of because you have buses. So
Right.
you see those.
do you want to take that? You want me to take it?
Sure,
Okay.
yeah. And so thank you for bringing that up and shedding light on that. So I mentioned it early on, but I did just touch over it. So let me talk a little more in detail regarding our transportation services. So we do have a wealth of transportation services to include our fixed routes and our what we call on-demand response. We have medical rides, and we recently kicked off what we call I Ride Now, which is sort of like your Uber and Lyft, but for older adults. We are piloting it in the northern Suffolk area, but the hope is that it will be self-sustainable so that we can start to expand out across our service area. You make a very valid point. It all boils down to access, and we know transportation is one of the key pillars to help increase access to get older adults out of the community to the necessary supports.
Is it kind of paying for itself or something or not?
So some of our transportation programs, the bulk of them are out of our core funding source. However, we do have what we call contributed program income or fee for service, in which there is a small minimum fee in which passengers have to pay if it's a fee for service, or it could be a donation, which is the contributed program income. But the bulk of it is out of core funding programs. We have some local opportunities and grants as well that we lean on. And our state, which is our DRPT, funds a good portion of our transportation.
And I will say the I Ride Now that Charnita mentioned, which is a new program, which is being piloted in northern Suffolk. That is intended to be a self-sustaining program.
Yes.
So there will be a sliding scale. People need a ride, that we'll be able to provide that ride at a small fee, enough to just cover the expenses.
The one that always catches my eye is housing. You know, I'm still serving on the city group about evictions, but it's like we go in circles because the issue is there's not enough housing. And what they're building today is so expensive, whether it's an apartment or a house. So I don't have any answers. I'm just saying, I'm glad it's an issue for you of what we do. We need something really out of the box and creative, because
Yeah,
I don't see it.
And it's a very difficult thing because the costs of even building housing, but the idea of the restructuring, the repurposing, where there's historic tax credits, which is how we did the Hayden Center. So there are ways that it can be created if there's awareness of how important it is, and everybody's willing to step up and say, let's try and do this thing. Let's make it easier instead of harder, right? We've had some conversations about some jurisdictions that make it hard to increase
We have had
housing,
those
right?
discussions, and you're
So,
right.
so we've got to get the word out, and we've got to find out who is amiable to really recognize this is serious. We need to be able to provide it in their area, and then get the partners and associations together to be able to say, here's how we're gonna take a bite out of this, one piece at a time, right?
Yeah, because it's tough.
You
And
know,
that-
senior homeless, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, we were going down Terminal Boulevard the other day, and my husband's father used to work for that naval rework facility that Brad moved to Cherokee. And there's all these old buildings and there's all this land, and you're like, ooh, is there some way, you know, in the future to talk to the federal government about, you know, how many years has that been since that burned? And it's just, everything's just deteriorating. So I just think we gotta start really looking at what's where, what can we.
And I think you hit the nail on the head with the legislative advocacy piece. Housing is so complex that one of the key actions that we have to take as a community, as a locality, as an organization, state, all the way up to federal, is advocacy. Just like we saw behavioral health became a key focus for the legislative agenda, we saw funding spur out of that particular efforts. It was a lot of cohorts and forums and groups advocating to push the message for behavioral health. So I think we can do the same in relationship to housing to help increase funding, increase efforts, so that together we can really help address unstable housing.
Empty school up on the eastern shore, about halfway out. It's still there. So no, it's just those things just jump out at you. I just want to say one more thing. Our niece is a nurse in the emergency room at Norfolk General. When she first came back from Florida, she had weekend nights. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the trauma center, what must this be like? But you know what her answer was when we asked her? I thought she was going to be gunshots, car accidents. This was her only comment. I never knew homeless people could be so mean to each other. And I'm wondering if you see that, is it part in the older population as well? I mean, I know a lot of people are mentally ill and that's why they're on the street, but I'll never get over that.
I'm gonna tell you, there's a dichotomy, right? So I know if you talk to a homeless person, they're gonna say, I've got a spot. They don't tell anybody where their spot is. They don't share it with the other homeless people because they're scared what they have will be taken and or they'll get beaten up, right?
Yeah.
So when it's nighttime, I hide, right? On the other hand, I've given out clothing. Said, one gentleman comes to mind in particular. He comes, I had a couple pair of pants that would fit him. I said, you probably need a second pair. No, somebody else might need that, right? So you have all different kinds of people on the street, but you're right, it's dangerous. It's so dangerous on the streets, no question about it.
So do you have a closed closet or you send them to like different churches and like I know Third Press has even one for professional clothes to help people get a job.
So no, we don't have a closed closet, but we work with organizations so that we know. Right now, as an organization, we're working to empower other organizations. We've just figured out how we can use our services to wrap around and help people get off and stay off the streets, right? Because our funding is very limited. It comes in buckets. You can't go outside these buckets, and people need to have an address, right? Homeless people don't have an address. So we've figured out where we can apply our resources in order to help keep people off the street. The Healthy Hotel was a prime example of that.
I have a kind of a question, comment around housing. Katie McDonough with the Alzheimer's Association, and we know dementia overlaps with housing issues, in particular with those who are, experiencing a diagnosis of dementia, but not to a point in their care needs where they can qualify for Medicaid-based services. So their level of need is not high enough. And they may qualify for what we call the AG grant in the state of Virginia, which helps people provide financial support for assisted living. But that amount has not been increased probably for over a decade, I think, possibly much more. So pretty much means assisted living care is non-existent for people who cannot afford to pay for it out of pocket. However, we know at the same time that, whether it be someone living with dementia, whether it be an older adult who has increased, mobility needs, they may not need one-to-one service, right? They may need service in a community living situation with supportive services to help them kind of bridge that gap between, living independently and then, nursing home level of care. So my question is, where do you see yourselves in creating models of housing that allow for not only us to meet the need of the constituent, but like you think about Centerra Pace, for example, they are highly dependent on that. That model is highly dependent on people having a safe living environment. And there are models in the country where they have coupled housing with PACE programs, for example, much like I love Hayden Center. I mean, I just love the Hayden Center. I would like to have, like 5 or 6 Hayden Centers in our area, right? Because it really, from an independent living standpoint, it really meets a major need. But even more so, how do we meet the needs, and how do you see maybe a vision of meeting the needs for those who have increased mobility or cognitive issues, necessarily are not in a state to live independently, but not yet in a state to live with full, nursing home level of care. Just visioning.
Gary, we're gonna let you answer that question. I'm just kidding. I don't know how to answer that question directly, honestly. I will tell you, through walking through the Hayden project, we've learned a ton about creating housing, making it affordable, making it profitable, working with investors, working with partners. So I look at part of our role is being available in order to bring that expertise to the table, because for pretty much anybody else in our community, it's going to be new, right? So I look at Hayden. We're still working through things day by day and making sure it's going to, build on itself and become even more and more community centered. So I look and I don't think our board is ready yet to go, oh, let's jump into the next one, right? Maybe in another year, right? But certainly to be able to bring the expertise that we do have to the table, I know it's not directly answering your question,
Yeah.
because it's a hard question, right?
Yeah.
And it's probably the most difficult part of the whole housing piece,
Yeah.
right? So we got people that are in between.
Yeah.
And how do we assist them? You know, a lot of the services that we do provide in order to perhaps encourage them, help them. You saw the veteran in the video, right? And you can tell he needs assistance, but he's living in his home. He's making his own decisions.
Right.
And he's a guy that might have been, oh, you're going to a nursing home, and they're going to make all your decisions for you. But it brings a dignity to that man to be able to be in his home, to be able to make his healthcare decisions, because he's still capable with assistance. And so a lot of times we can provide that assistance, but the actual housing is very difficult. And we're all about learning more about it. Just because we did Hayden doesn't mean we know everything by any stretch, right?
Yeah, I think there was a couple of models in Philadelphia, a model like Hayden that used tax credits. I think it was a area agency on aging that did that. And then also in Philadelphia, there's a model again for the PACE program incorporating housing into that. So, you know, Philadelphia is a place to look. It's been 15 years, but I think I'm sure, I know San Francisco, where homeless, you know, a lot of other cities where homelessness is, you know, a significant issue. I think there are models there to bring different, not necessarily you, but you being a convener and bringing different entities together to help create that. So.
And you know, Hayden, of course, you know, has that hub. So it's not just the
Right.
housing piece,
Correct.
but it's the whole social determinants of health, that health related social needs aspect. So you have the clinic right there on the facility. You have transportation being provided right there where older adults can come out and get access to different rides. We have our in-home services has team and representatives that come over to really support the older adults there. And we have food bank and a host of other partners that come on site, social and rec activities. Our senior sites are also a part of Hayden. So I think in addition to building that housing piece, as you shared, the important piece is really creating that integrated service network and really bringing the services to the housing units to keep the older adults aging in place so that we can have a return on investment costs when it talks about the living facilities, which we know can be very costly.
Yes.
Very costly.
Just one more thing on this note is something that can be done now with advocacy is making sure that the houses that are being built, the houses that are being renovated are senior friendly from the beginning, so that not only, you know, for years it's been, oh, this person needs a ramp so they can get out of their house. That's great, they get out of their house. Problem is they can't get into the neighbor's house, right? I want to go visit my friend. I can't get there, even in my own neighborhood. And so if we could see some changes in building requirements, that wouldn't be super costly to the developers, but to be able to say, you know what, this house is going to be made in a way that accommodates older adults or families with children or whatever, right? So,
You know,
yes, let me get her in.
So Steve and Charlita, I advocate for senior services. I've been in it for a while now. I am much younger than I used to be. But I see a lot now, and the issue is rent is constantly going up, but you're not making any repairs to these seniors' homes. Is there anything that we could advocate? And I need to learn how to advocate the way that you all do it. Is there anything that we could put out there, advocate for these builders and owners to be more sensitive to us and what our needs are?
I think we can. I think I was starting to hit upon that a little bit, right? But it starts to become, you know, hearing it and now going, oh, you know what? We need to build that into our legislative agenda, right? So legislative agenda is, here's our 4 or 5 key things that we need to communicate that we believe will help our older adult community, right? So our advocacy manager is developing this list of, here's our 4 or 5 key things. This will go into the mix, right? Because you've spoken up, we're able to go, wow, let's not miss that. on our legislative agenda. And then I think it's a matter of advocating for it, right? And letting people know, building the awareness, just like we're doing with the op-eds, building the awareness of what can be done, and then finding a way to bring action to it. Right?
So going back to the veteran that was in, you said it was in his own home.
Mhm.
So I'm here and I'm looking at video and I see where his lock and where the lock is on the door, all of this is damaged. That's not safe. So we can't advocate if we're working with a senior, we can't advocate, we need to do something to make it a little safer in his home, or he's responsible for what goes on in his home.
Well, first, kudos for recognizing that. I've seen that 10 times. I've never noticed that. In fact, I was in the home doing the interview and I didn't notice it. Shame on me, right? But we can only do so much, right? I mean, we have to focus a little bit. Getting him the help he needs so he can stay in his home is super important, right? It's a step. But I will say we do have emergency funds, so small buckets of emergency funds that people call, hey, you know what? It's winter. I can't pay my heat bill. Okay, we'll get you through the winter. Let us help you until our emergency funds run out, which they always do, right? But we do have pockets of emergency dollars that we go, this is something that has to be taken care of right away. Let's make sure we don't leave that particular person in that particular situation in a difficult way.
So you did say he's a veteran.
Yes.
He can get assistance through the chapters and they will give them funds to help with these things.
I'm gonna connect him with Herb.
Yes, with her.
Herb, all right.
One of the things Steve's pointing out there, we have a senior affordable housing problem exacerbated by the homeless. And that's where Maury High School presents the same kind of opportunity to the city of Norfolk, who has to look at it as a local issue, not wait for all the homeless to jump up and bite them in the butt,
Right.
but take a progressive action to set a plan in place as this is what we're going to do when Maury is closed as a school and we convert it to affordable senior housing to make sure that those seniors who are living in insecure and unsafe condition got a secure and safe place to live. What you're getting at there. In Alaway County, we have a Christian outreach program that the churches in the area put together every October Super Saturday, SOUPER Saturday, and raise tens of thousands of dollars. And that goes to help rehabilitate homes. In the meantime, there's the American Legion and the VFW that goes around and helps make access ramp. There's Dominion Surrey Nuclear Power Station that has a group that go around and help rehabilitate homes too. So much of this demands an overall, if you would, a D-Day 6 June kind of plan, but then you've got the individual little operations out there in the individual jurisdictions, whether it be Southampton County or Virginia Beach or Norfolk or wherever it is. It isn't just going to happen. It takes forward-looking people at the local jurisdiction levels to make it happen. And that's why I made a call to Paul Riddick. I used to admire that man when he was on city council, as he keeps city council straight in Norfolk. And I said, by golly, it'd be great to call it the Riddick Senior Center.
I just walked in. I just walked in.
And if I may, I just want to speak just really briefly to your question for the renters, the older adult renters. Let's not forget that there are resources in this area through housing counseling agencies that can help educate and advocate for the older adult. And so when they are paying rent and they have things in their home that needs to be fixed and the landlord, the owner, the property manager is refusing or hasn't been able to get to it, then there are regulations and laws that govern these things. And so housing counseling agencies have housing counselors that can work with them to really help ensure that action is taken. And so if you know of older adults, of course, sitting in units that are, they have repairs that need to be done, or maybe they have modifications where they need a ramp in their bathroom or whatnot. These things have to happen by law. And that, I mean, by the Landlord Tenancy Right Act, you have fair housing law, all of these things, and how to request accommodations. So we do have local housing counseling agencies in this area that can help connect them with that and get some action happening.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I also think what you talked about, the American Legion, VFW,
Yes.
and they've got these wonderful people, and I think all of us are willing to go help. So, because sometimes there's bad landlords.
Yes,
you know,
very,
and-
yes,
So they
absolutely.
don't do the right thing, but something like a lock, it just seems to me, some of the guys I've seen at those facilities would be more than happy to go over and fix a lock. I
Mhm.
could send Ted over to fix a lock. But I mean, it's bigger than that. It's
Yeah.
just how to put people together with people who need them.
Yes.
Do you have a master list of resources, agencies that provide services? Is it public or?
We have a number of things. First, our resource specialists who takes all the calls come in, and then they have resources to be able to direct people, if not internally, externally. In Western Tidewater, we developed a directory of resources for older adults, which is fairly comprehensive. Anything else that's?
Yeah, we're also part of we have a no wrong door system. So our resource specialists and our option counselors, everyone under our in-home services team are trained in how to really take those calls and then connect resources within the no wrong door system. We also are connected to 211. So, those are existing infrastructures of resources in this area, and Mission United or Unite Us platform. So those are other ways in which we connect people to resources.
And
There's a
also-
resource section on our website as well.
Absolutely.
And there's also 757 resources
Yes.
that's housed for kids. It's very comprehensive.
But
And it's local.
I will say what we find is for our older adults, typically senior services rises to the top, whether we can support them or not. So folks say, I'm an older adult, they say, call senior services. And so that's typically what happens.
Yes, that's true.
If I might make a
Yes, sir.
recommendation going forward, I know, Steve, I talked to you a little bit about this. In the last year, I became aware of the Senior Advocate Foundation that Stephanie Smith founded in 2000 after helping take care of her aging grandmother and her Alzheimer's development. This organization holds programs around the greater Hampton Roads area. I've been to 2 of them, extremely well done on subjects that are pertinent to seniors. And they have another program coming up similar to what we did, the caregiver relief program we did at Botanical Gardens. They've got that coming up this Friday. And so I try to communicate whatever Stephanie has sent out to 12 area churches in Alaway County. I think senior services, as much as possible, whenever they have a program, in order to make people more aware of senior services present, because that's always been a problem for us, is what senior services? Well, one way to do that is if we have somebody at their symposiums, expos, workshops, et cetera, to just get up and talk a little bit about senior services and have a handout to give folks. This is how you reach that no wrong door and access these programs that you need as a senior. So however we can do that time-wise, manning-wise, it would really, I think, benefit senior services becoming known.
Well, and that,
Oh.
if I can.
Yeah.
It brings up a really good point. You saw our finances at the beginning. Our finances are fully expended every year for the demand that we have. So we have a catch-22. A lot of people don't know that we're here. They don't know that these services are available to them. However, if we don't have the resources and we let people know, then all of a sudden we're saying, thank you for calling. Yes, we do that. You can't have it. Right? Instead, we're at a place now where we're saying, how do we build capacity? How do we get the dollars that are needed? You saw the population numbers, right? So if we're at capacity now, and a lot of people don't know about us, just think about the next 2 years, the next 4 years. We have to find a way to increase capacity on behalf of older adults in our community. It just won't work the way that it is and the way that it's been for the last 10 years. Just won't work.
I think that's the issue for every organization, especially serving older adults coming out of the pandemic is, it's like there was an explosion of need as doors opened again, as resources got out there, marketing was so good, we all digitized, hooray. And then it was like, I mean, you guys are on a wait list, we're on a wait list now, which I've never in a million years would have thought of waitlisting art programs, for God's sake, but like we're doing it, you know, because that's where it's capacity building now. It's not, awareness is like hardly the issue. In fact, I'm almost like, please don't ring phone, like every time we don't call me. And which is horrible. It's not, you know, but I think in the middle of the pandemic, it was almost like, you know, oh, yes, like whatever we can do. And we deployed so many resources and there were so many funds coming from like the federal government and that was all fantastic. And now it's kind of like, oh, everything's back to normal. But it's not back to normal for the most vulnerable. Yes. So for the very young and the very old, it's just not, that's not what happened. And you talked about social isolation earlier, and like social isolation is going down overall, finally, and for the first time in like 6 years. But for those who have risk factors like food insecurity, disability, chronic illness, whatever, it went way up again because everybody kind of went like, oh, problem's over, we're good, move on. And that's not what is the reality for the most vulnerable in our communities. So it really is, it is capacity building, it is advocacy, it is fundraising, it is all of that right now. It is the only way because the wait lists are just getting longer, unfortunately.
So may I say something to her? You are so right. That's what the Alzheimer's Association does. We get out there and we advocate. Yes, sir.
And we will be at the senior advocate event. We've already been in conversation. So we will definitely be there. Mm-hmm. Yes,
Any
Ms.
questions
Stephanie.
from our online viewers? Yes. Okay, so do you help individuals sign up for SNAP benefits?
So in our benefits counseling department, they do focus on Medicare sign up and really helping to cost savings in relationship to helping folks sign up for SNAP benefits. They will work with individuals, option counselors will help support if the need is there, but typically they will connect them to your local social services or other affiliates that can help complete those applications when and where needed.
Sharnita, can I ask a quick question? Options counseling, just in the weeds, is that available to anyone despite your income, or are there like income sliding scale for options counsel, access to options counseling?
So typically when our older adults call, of course, we have the age requirement first and foremost. So the age requirement, they'll connect through the resource specialist. They'll do a full assessment. And if it's determined that the need is in relationship to where an option counselor needs to step in, those connections will be made. Keep in mind, our OCs do short time limited service and assistance. It's not your typical full-blown long-term case management. They sort of tailor and target this specific need and help connect that older adult to the various resources in which they need to connect to include the programs that we have internally, like our OCs work with folks to connect to our home delivered meals program, our in-home care, respite care, all of the above.
But there's no charge.
Yes, there's no charge. Thank you, Steve.
Steve, could you comment a little bit more about the challenges of the Senior Companion Program? Because I think we face the same problems out in the hinterlands as the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy are with recruiting. Do we have a problem recruiting senior companions to qualify?
We always need more senior companions. What the Senior Companion Program does is it matches older adults with older adults who are less mobile or need friendship or things like that. And our Senior Companion director really looks at who you are, what you like to do, and tries to match you with someone with very similar preferences. So if you like to shop and you can't get out, they'll match you with someone that loves to shop and can get out, but just needs someone to go hang with when they shop, you know? Or if you like to stay home and play cards, they'll match you with someone that likes to watch TV or play cards or whatever it might be. But we are always looking for senior companions. There is a small stipend that comes with being a companion. So that's a little bit of a benefit, helps offset the cost of gas or things like that that you might have. But yes, if you know of people that would like to do that, build a friendship and help someone in the process, that's what our senior companions do. Yes, sir.
Do you guys put this information out? Like, have you reached out to the churches, the organizations that might have a senior population that would be interested in just jumping right in to this?
Yeah, we recently, I recently did a presentation with the City of Norfolk's Trusted Partner Circle,
Okay.
which is a host of not only, not just organizations, but a lot of your local churches and faith-based organizations. So that was a recent presentation. And then we have different connections through our local commissions on aging, our other aging networks in which we work with churches as well. But I think we can always take it a step further to really do outreach to the local churches because they typically have a large population of older adults.
Right. And you guys stated that a lot of people don't know that this exists. I've heard, but to come in and see the participation, I'm just excited. I want to leave with a package to take to my mother and other aging family members. By the way, I walked in late. I'm doing all of this talking. For those of you who do not know, I am Councilman John J.P. Page for Ward 4. With Mr. Riddick's endorsement, I'm the person that took his seat. I apologize for coming in so late. My schedule today with us having a budget council meeting today has been a little strenuous, but it was so important to me to find time to come and show my face and sit with you because I stand with the seniors and whatever causes and issues that you have. So know that you have an advocate that's not quite as wise as Mr. Riddick, but I have as much fight in me as Mr. Riddick has in him. And I'm here to fight and advocate for you. So take advantage of the fact of me being new to council, where you can wind me up just like a little toy soldier. And I will go in whatever direction we need to fight to make it known as to the things that need to exist to take care of our most trusted citizens who sacrificed another years and have lived on. And then keep in mind, as we look at these things that are not like we want them, just understand that there's seniors that are dealing with issues such as living in communities where gunfire is hitting their building. I had a senior that was actually hit by a bullet last month, caught up in the crossfire, leaving with a nurse's aide. It was a graze, the person is all right. So we have a lot to be grateful for, even though we have a lot of work to do. But I am John J.P. Page, and I'm here to support you, City Council member in the City of Norfolk for Ward 4.
So I hear you would be more than willing to be the champion for a Riddick Senior Village in Norfolk.
I like how you hear. I like how you hear.
I heard that.
Yeah, I love how you hear. Yeah, I love how you hear.
See my last comment, and I'm done. General Assembly last year reconstituted the focus and vision of the Commonwealth Council on Aging that I didn't even know existed. You know why? Because they haven't done diddly squat, I think. They will have new members appointed after the election in November. And I hope that we can get as many senior services of Southeast Virginia board members on that council appointed by their state delegate or state senator representative, because we need to make some things happen in the state of Virginia. And the Commonwealth Council on Aging can help focus on those 1, 2, 3 priorities and start to make things happen from up there while the locals are working on them too.
You know, it's an interesting comment, and you're absolutely right. Not only is there redistricting in the Commonwealth in general, but there's been redistricting in work groups on aging and things like that, some of which we're not represented at all at this point, despite the fact that we have the largest senior population and the largest senior population in poverty of any place in the state. So we're working on making sure we're represented in all those arenas and all those areas, because it's not right. And we're going to make sure that we get on those commissions and on those work groups. Their thoughts, ideas, questions? I really appreciate everybody coming out. It's been an excellent conversation. It gives us real food for thought for the final development of our strategic plan. I know there's been comments here that we'll build into our strategic plan, including the Paul Riddick Community Center at in Norfolk. So, any last questions, ideas, thoughts, ideas? All right, well, thank you very much. Have a nice afternoon. Take a water. There's coffee, there's some snacks. Help yourself.
Hey,